What's with the carrots?
Oh, I was afraid you weren't eating right at school.
So which one are we gonna watch?
Fatso.
I'm loving the title. Well, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Lorelai and Rory are constantly eating takeout, junk food, and basically anything unhealthy they can get their hands on. And when they're not eating, they're talking about food. Honestly, I sometimes think they talk about food more than they actually eat, which is interesting. But based on what the show tells us, we're supposed to believe they eat the amounts of food they're always describing. Their movie nights are built around snacks. Luke's Diner is the center of their world. I think they eat there almost every day. Their appetites are treated like part of what makes them funny, relatable, and different from everyone else. But they also stay effortlessly thin.
This could feed 12.
Excuse me, I've seen you eat.
Fine, 6.
Lorelai and Rory are allowed to eat whatever they want because their bodies never reflect it. Meanwhile, people whose bodies fall outside the show's beauty standard are regularly turned into punchlines.
Can't we find some other really fat people to watch?
Wow, that sounded really insensitive.
Welcome to another episode of Pexposure. I'm Pecky, and I like to psychoanalyze myself through the characters I watch in film and TV, using my background in psychology and communication. So if you relate a little too deeply to fictional people, this channel might be for you. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my episodes. When I was younger, I genuinely believed it was possible to eat like Lorelai and Rory and still look like Lorelai and Rory.
Oh, you're too thin as always.
But we eat.
Obviously, everyone's body is different. Some people naturally have faster metabolisms, and some people can eat more than others without their bodies changing that much. But the show doesn't just present Lorelai and Rory as two naturally thin people with big appetites. It turns their eating habits into part of their charm. And something I've always noticed is how Rory actually eats in these scenes. Alexis Bledel often barely touches the food. She takes teeny tiny bites, eats very daintily, or just moves things around the plate. And that could be for practical reasons. Actors have to film multiple takes, and nobody wants to eat the same amount of food every time the camera resets. So I'm not making assumptions about Alexis herself, but visually it creates this interesting disconnect. At least it always did for me. The show wants the fun of indulgence without the reality of bodies.
God, the smell of this food is making me ill.
I think it's delicious.
How can you eat like that? Juliet hasn't eaten a meal since 1994. My metabolism simply doesn't accept food.
Lorelai and Rory get to reject diet culture while still receiving all the benefits of fitting perfectly within its beauty standard. They're thin without appearing to work for it, and I think that creates its own impossible standard. The Gilmores also make fun of people whose bodies don't fit that fantasy. Let's take a look at Rory's ballet review in season 4. Rory is struggling to find her voice at the Yale Daily News, and she writes this brutal review of a professional ballet performance. The storyline is supposed to be about Rory finally being honest and developing a sharper voice as a journalist. But part of that honesty is just cruelty toward the ballerina's body.
That lead ballerina, she has no friends.
How can you tell?
Because no one gave her the heads up on the roll of fat around the bra strap.
I think that moment says a lot about how the show treats Rory and Lorelai's judgment as wit. They can be extremely mean, but because they're funny, fast, charming, the cruelty often gets softened. The ballerina eventually confronts Rory, so the show does acknowledge that the review was harsh.
There was nothing personal, okay?
You called me a hippo!
No, I compared you to a hippo. That's not calling you a hippo.
But the storyline still connects Rory's willingness to publicly mock another woman's body with becoming a stronger writer. There's also a moment in season 6 where Lorelai accidentally picks up another shopper's bag at a department store and finds plus-size underwear inside.
Wait a second, what is this?
Your underwear.
Thanks a lot.
What are they doing in there?
Well, I'm guessing probably hiding from their real owners because I would hate to be wrapped around the woman who fit those.
She reacts with complete horror at the idea that the underwear might belong to her, or that someone might associate her with the larger woman. The joke depends on the audience understanding that wearing that size would be humiliating. And larger women aren't the only women who get judged. Lorelai and Rory can also become critical of thin women, especially when those women feel intimidating or competitive.
Women all over the world will line up to see that tiny woman fat.
Sherry is thin, polished, health-conscious, and seemingly perfect for Christopher. Lorelai's digs at her come from how completely she seems to fit it. There's also Janet, Rory's athletic roommate at Yale.
I'm gonna go for a run. Now? Just a short one around the block. She looks so normal, and then that happens.
She exercises regularly and visibly puts effort into her body, which the show often treats as excessive and annoying. And I think that adds another layer to the fantasy.
You're gonna work out on spring break? Exercise is a high. You should try it. Sure, I'll meet you out there.
The ideal is to be thin without appearing to try. A larger woman can become a punchline, but so can a woman who visibly works to stay thin.
Where are you going?
The gym.
I'm sorry. Ocean's awfully loud down here. Where'd you say you're going?
The gym.
Sorry, the ocean is so loud.
Lorelai and Rory occupy the one position the show consistently treats as cool, eating whatever they want, rejecting exercise and restraint, and still remaining effortlessly thin.
Lots of returning favorites today. Why, there's old Butterbutt.
And our good friend, Back Fat Pat.
Incoming.
Hey there.
Hey, Pat.
Oh, hi, Pat.
Welcome back, Rory.
Oh, I'm not back fat. I mean back Pat.
This scene came out in 2016. People often defend the body shaming in the original series by saying it was the early 2000s. And yes, a lot of television from that era was casually cruel about bodies. Thinness was treated like the basic requirement for being desirable, and people in larger bodies were routinely used as visual punchlines. But it doesn't completely excuse the writing, especially when the same humor returns more than a decade later. The revival had the opportunity to look back at some of the show's attitudes with more self-awareness. Instead, Lorelai and Rory are still sitting together judging a stranger's body for entertainment. So this just feels like a pattern within the show. And this is where I think the psychology behind fat phobia becomes more interesting than simply listing every offensive joke. We tend to assign personality traits to body size. Thinness is often associated with discipline, desirability, health, and self-control, even when the thin person isn't behaving in a particularly disciplined way. When Lorelai and Rory eat an enormous amount of food, it makes them quirky. If a larger character behaved exactly the same way, the show would probably treat it as an explanation for their body. And I think fat jokes can sometimes function as a way of creating distance. By laughing at a larger body, a person is also saying, "That isn't me." The joke creates a boundary between the person making it and the person being mocked. Being associated with the larger body becomes something to avoid, which is why Lorelai reacts so strongly to the plus-sized underwear. The joke is about her fear of being mistaken for the kind of woman who would wear them. That fear is also why people can participate in fat phobia even when they aren't thin themselves. Mocking someone larger can temporarily make a person feel safer within that hierarchy. As long as there's someone else to point at, they can believe they're still on the acceptable side of the line. And the acceptable side of that line can move at any time.
She's been your father's secretary since you were a child.
Oh, Largy Margie. Very clever when you're 6.
I do think it's important to acknowledge that Gilmore Girls has characters like Suki. With Suki, food is about quality, creativity, and care. She's a chef, so she's constantly thinking about ingredients, flavor, and what she can make for other people. Lorelai and Rory's relationship with food is much more about craving, comfort, and indulgence than quality. But Suki actually seems to have one of the more grounded relationships with food on the show. Her body isn't the center of her character, but having one beloved plus-size character doesn't erase the larger pattern in the humor. A show can care about an individual character and still participate in fat phobia. It can give one woman dignity while continuing to use other larger bodies as punchlines. And because Gilmore Girls feel so warm, charming, and easy to trust, those jokes can blend into the rest of the show. In between all of that coziness, there are constant reminders that thinness is part of the fantasy and that being larger than the show's narrow beauty standard is something to fear, mock, or distance yourself from. And again, I also don't think this conversation only belongs to the early 2000s. We probably wouldn't see some of these same exact jokes in a new show like this now, but that doesn't mean we've moved past the attitude underneath it. It feels like extreme thinness is becoming aspirational again. The pressure to make your body smaller hasn't disappeared, it's just found a different language. I've gotten a few comments on my other video saying, "It's just a show, it's there for entertainment, this isn't real life." And yeah, I know it isn't real life, but it was written by real people. And characters in film and television are there to make us feel something or influence influence us in some way. I think even the most brainless things on television can do that. I find value in dissecting the ideas presented to us because sometimes they can teach us something about ourselves. That's the point of this channel. Anyway, sorry for the tangent. I know my last video was pretty critical of the writing on Gilmore Girls, and I don't want this to become a series where I'm just putting the writers down, specifically the Palladinos. I included a few clips of Amy Sherman Palladino in my last video because I thought her comments added more important context. But a show on this scale is made by a lot of people, and it was also shaped by the culture surrounding it. The problem with Gilmore Girls is their appetites look like freedom because their bodies never challenged the beauty standard.
I wouldn't know where to begin.
Well, start at the top and stop when you hit table.
When you grow up watching that, you can start to believe that being comfortable around food is something you have to earn by being thin. I think that messaging affected me more than I realized when I was younger. It made thinness look natural and effortless. It made me believe that women who were genuinely cool didn't have to think about food or their bodies at all. And if you did think about those things, or if your body reacted differently, it could feel like you had somehow failed at something that was supposed to come naturally. But there's nothing natural about expecting every woman to eat freely and never acknowledge the effort involved in maintaining a socially acceptable body.
Wow, you can eat.
Yes, I can. Oh, it's bad, isn't it?
No, most girls don't eat. It's good you eat.
The food is part of what makes the Gilmore Girls world feel comforting. But that comfort isn't extended to everyone equally. And I think part of growing up with a comfort show is learning how to separate what genuinely comforted us from the messages that made us judge ourselves. Loving Gilmore Girls doesn't mean we have to carry every message it gave us, especially the ones that taught us to judge ourselves or other people.
My mic kind of conked out. I don't know what happened. Anyway, did the food and body image messaging in Gilmore Girls affect the way you thought when you were younger? Or were there any moments that stood out to you differently when you rewatched the show as an adult? Let me know in the comments. I genuinely love reading your thoughts, and honestly, a lot of these videos start because of a conversation we have there. Also, thank you so much for helping me reach 1,000 subscribers. I'm so grateful that so many of you found this little corner of the internet. If you ever want to keep the conversation going, my Instagram, Substack, and everything else are linked below. Feel free to send me a message if there's a movie, show, or weird little theory you think I should dive into next. I'd genuinely love to hear it. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in another video soon. Bye!